Have you felt safe recently when going outside? Now, I'm not talking about COVID-19 or the pandemic. I'm talking about, have you felt safe walking down the streets of major cities to either go shopping, eating, or just simply to go out to have fun? Crime has always been an issue in the world and always will be, but the recent crime that we've seen across the United States has been more than usual. Using credible sources, I will be talking about I will be talking about the research to help deliver information that I will be sharing with you today, and I will explain how the rise in crime in the United States is important to address, and the causes and barriers, and some of the action that can be taken to decrease the high rates and increase rates of crime. The first thing I like to talk about is why crime is significant. Some of the crimes that are happening are homicides, robbery, and assault, and all these crimes altogether are affecting people's lives and their livelihoods. The increase in crime has been appearing in more major cities such as Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. And due to the crime, one article states that LA Magazine stated on July 17, 2022, that due to crime, Starbucks is announced last week that they are shutting down 16 U.S. locations, and 6 of those locations are in Los Angeles due to safety concerns and challenging incidents that have been encountered at certain locations that are too dangerous to continue business. Another news article by Vox stated on April 19, 2022, that homicides rose from 40% from 2019 and 5% from 2020 in 27 cities. And a YouTube documentary called California's Crime Wave, What's the Problem by channel California Insider states that struggling businesses in San Francisco are struggling even more because of the massive organized looting and theft, shoplifting that is happening across the country. And it's mainly been happening, more of it has been seen to happen in San Francisco's metropolitan area, and most department stores and businesses, smaller businesses, are being affected. Now, even though department stores can maybe deal with the challenging or economic effects, it's still affecting employees, since some of the employees are being assaulted by being pepper sprayed during these situations. And some stores department stores are shutting down because it's too dangerous to do business, as Starbucks also stated as well. Some of the barriers and causes that I like to talk about are the ineffective governance, the political gain, and the justice reform laws. So the Atlantic News article states that crime is on a spike, and that certain political leaders, for example, San Francisco's previous district attorney that was fortunately recalled, Chesa Bowden, was basically gaslighting citizens and telling them that he knew the facts and his team knew the facts, rather than citizens who are experiencing the crime situations on a daily and who are living in regular society. And he was essentially telling the people that the crime wasn't as severe as they were making it out to seem. However, people know what they see, and some people are victims or witnesses of certain crimes and know that it's out of control and want to change. But that district attorney just wouldn't listen to them, which caused them to recall him and replace him with a new district attorney who will be serving until November of 2022, and that is Brooke Jenkins, who is San Francisco's new district attorney. During the 2020 election, typically Democratic leaders were the ones that were pressured by the defund the police movement during the time of election. So as leaders, they did as they were followed by their supporters, and they decided to defund the police. But however, the Western Journal states that the New York Times reported multiple state cities that defunded the police are actually refunding the police because they saw negative effects from the defund the police actions that they took. And the documentary that I also talked about, What's the Problem, stated in California that Assembly Bill 109 and Prop 47 contradict each other, because Assembly Bill 109 takes prisoners of low-level crimes to county jails, but did that because prisons were becoming overcrowded and county jails were less crowded. However, now with Prop 47, it charges crimes of possession of certain drugs and amphetamines and even theft as misdemeanors, as long as the theft is under $950. And the problem is that so many people decided to do that because it was counted as a low-level crime, and so more people acted upon those crimes since they knew there would probably be less consequence. However, even if there is a consequence, they're sent to jail, but even people in prisons were sent to jail. So basically it's causing overcrowding now in jails rather than prisons. And the situation can go hand in hand where if there were super strict laws, they will overcrowd prisons, but if they are less strict, they are overcrowding jails, and even to the point where they're just releasing anybody because the overcrowding is so severe. And so some solutions that can help reduce maybe having, the documentary talks about that most people don't really belong in jail even if it is a low-level crime, because there are other options such as house arrest and maybe probation too, which can prevent overcrowding in both prisons and jails. So instead of someone being charged maybe with an amphetamine and going to prison after being charged with it for 3 times and going to prison and serving time there, that would overcrowd if too many people did the same thing. But then if it's counted as a misdemeanor, they go to jail instead. But more people are doing certain things like theft and organized theft crimes because they know they can do it as many times as they want, which is affecting people's livelihoods. Some of the thefts are even people are held at gunpoint. So there are lots of even if they're violent, but they didn't really act on violence or really hurt anybody to a severe point, certain crimes are counted as a misdemeanor, which is a problem because then people know they can get away, or criminals know they can get away with these types of crimes. So one thing that another article, 5 solutions to prison overcrowding, stated the same thing, that allowing people to keep their jobs and to continue their lives and maybe to rehabilitate is house arrest, which will help prevent prisons from overcrowding and also people from, help them rehabilitate. And some of the actions we can take are vote. We can vote against these propositions, or we can vote for the propositions. And these propositions were actually intended to help people in prison to rehabilitate and to lower time, and they thought it was helping. But these things were thought of as in theory. They're not thought of as in reality. And the reality is, if someone knows they can steal many times and they're comfortable doing that as many times as they want without having any without having any guilt of knowing what they're doing and affecting people, they will continue to do that. And those people either unfortunately do need different rehabilitation services, or just might have to serve the time in a prison after doing a crime repeatedly so many times. And so some things we can do is vote for or against these propositions, depending on how we each feel, and since these type of situations are very tricky. And another thing is maybe you can form groups and gain signatures to add a proposition to the ballot, which might be a little bit more effective than voting for or against certain propositions and bills. And I will link the voting links and a guide to how to add a proposition and the steps to take to doing that in the description. Last, I just like to close off or end off with by saying I talked about the increase in crime and how it's becoming such a prevalent issue for everybody. And I like to also say that today I explained the rise in crime around the United States and what has caused the issue and some potential ideas that can maybe reduce the issue. And I just like to say and close off now completely by saying crime is always going to be around, and unfortunately it's not something that will ever disappear, but at the level it is right now, it does need to reduce and lower just a little bit. With that being said, thank you, and I hope you gain something from this.